Milwaukee actually created the recip saw back in the day and coined the name SAWZALL. Now that became so popular that recip saws became named SAWZALLs by many people, and still to this day you'll hear a lot of people call any recip saw a SAWZALL. With that said, Milwaukee continues to improve and improve on their SAWZALLs, and they continue to lead the market. This new SAWZALL that's out is lighter, has some more user-intuitive features, and one key feature that we're going to really enjoy testing. Stick with us. Milwaukee's new M18 fuel SAWZALL comes in their standard form or their one-key version. Now we have the standard form here, which is model number 2821-20, and they haven't changed a lot of the specs from the 2720 model. This is actually a 2721 because it does have one key. But with that said, it looks the same in many ways. It has some of the same specs, like an 1.25 inch stroke, 3,000 strokes per minute. So they're not decreasing any of the performance. They're trying to keep anything and everything the same, if not better. What they did do is shave about a ½ pound off these tools from new to the old. So the new one is 6.8 pounds, the old one is 7.4. That's interesting. And how did they do it? How did they get all this better stuff in? But I think one of the ways that we can see a little bit of it is to come in, take a closer look at what's going on, and I'll show you some of the differences. When you look at the new Milwaukee Fuel SAWZALL and compare it to the older model, there's not a lot of differences. They're all very subtle, but they are important. What most people are going to talk about is going to be your shoe adjustment. You still have basically the same shoe from the new model to the old model. The only difference is you push 2 buttons in here and can move this in and out and adjust it to 8 different positions. The old model had a lever. The lever worked, it just simply wasn't as intuitive and sometimes got in the way. Now with that said, we're going to pull these out and leave them out because the next part is kind of easier to see without them. I apologize here, this is my deer cleaning saw, and it's the only one that I have that actually you could see inside of. But when you look inside here, the new saw has a little bit more robust blade changing area. It's definitely a lot smoother. If you listen to it, it's just smooth and easy, and there's more meat to grab onto. When you actually look at the old saw, you can hear it. It makes a lot of noise. It's a little bit harder to turn, and unfortunately there is meat inside of here, but it is a lot smaller of an area to grab onto, and heat can actually get to this one and make it a little harder to use. When you look at the rest of the tool, the main thing that I really like to see is this metal reinforcement that we have for the battery. If you've looked at the other tests that we've done on this channel with some of the Milwaukee tools, if you drop them, especially lights, with the battery in, this is one of the areas that will crack from this battery pulling down or hitting the ground. We're going to test this area out, but this metal reinforcement is going to give you a lot more strength in this area and allow you to have a lot more consistent battery changes. Nothing's going to be overly tight or overly loose. That's huge. What people aren't going to talk about, and I think is another huge item, is the amount of cooling that this motor has. The new motor is smaller, a little bit more robust, a little bit more technologically advanced, and the cooling comes in from the bottom and goes out the sides in the back. This motor doesn't need as much cooling as the other motor. As far as what you're looking at here, you had intake, 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 and then everything out in the back. But if you're using this in sand, water, anything else, all that is getting inside this, pushed through, and it's causing more wear. So the new one should have a longer lifespan while it's being used in maybe excavation purposes. So another big upgrade to this saw. Let's get to doing a little bit of cutting and a little bit of testing on this area and back, just to show you a little bit of its strengths and features. If you've been happy with the cutting quality and vibration of the older model, you'll be thrilled with this model, as it's very similar. Obviously, blades are important when you're cutting different materials, but you still have an 1.25 inch stroke here. So let's go at this piece of metal. And of course, the adjustable shoe is nice because if you want to move the shoe out, so you don't have to continue using the war portion of the blade, you can, and it's super easy. This new beefier blade change system should work a lot better when you're using this in sand and other areas that have coarse materials that'll get up in this blade.
Five minutes later.
You can see there's still obviously going to be stuff in here, and it was a little hard to pull at first, but once you're pulled up, in and out, still works very easily. Over time, what happens with the other one, it's not as beefy in there, and it makes it harder and harder and harder to use this mechanism. Great upgrade for Milwaukee. In the past, most of our testing, we'd actually leave the battery on because with it off, you get a large area that you can pinch back here and you'd get a little bit of breakage. This test, we're gonna throw this guy underneath, just see how it fares. This metal reinforcement should help this with easy on, easy out. This is what's important for job site work. So anytime you run a tool over with something that's heavy on gravel, there's going to be a little bit of scuffing, which I think is going to be normal. You can see we had quite a bit down here at the bottom, which I think is important as this was pinched and you got tire tracks going over it here. That put a lot of stress in this area, and as you can see, this battery is still perfect, just as it was when it was new. And that to me is huge. We've had a lot of different just testing, I guess, per se. Maybe not all with Sawzalls, but with different pieces of equipment, and we've had that area break even just in this back portion, which wouldn't be that big of a deal. That's more of just like a well for it to go in smoothly, but this area here is super important, and I think that metal piece would be nice to have on all of the Milwaukee tools. So guys, not a lot of actual sawing in this video because the specs really haven't changed, and while they've done some upgrades internally, you're really getting the same Sawzall, just beefed up and better. And that's why I really wanted to go into a little bit more of the destructive testing to show you that things work. Now, no matter what you do up front, you have moving parts that if they get sand or any grit inside them, they do start to wear. And I think that's why it's super important, especially with heat, if you're working with metal, that you have a little bit more beef up in front. So this is not perfect. None of them are when they're used in excavation or anything like that in sand, but it's a lot better than what it was. Simply blow that out, you'll have it basically back to new. The back, as we showed, amazing, perfect, exactly what you wanted to see, and that part is going to last for you. And as I said, I hope that transfers over to all the rest of the Milwaukee tools, because if you drop this or anything that else happens without a battery on it, it is an open area for damage to occur. Now, if your battery's on it, obviously the battery will take the beating on the bottom with the rubber overmold, and you really won't have a lot transfer through to here, especially the way it attaches. It's not going to break it. But without the battery, huge upgrade, especially for something that's got a lot of vibration. So I like this new tool. It's going to be available in different stuff. We're going to put those links and everything else in the description. We always appreciate you giving us a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As always, have a great day.